Trading Nut, Episode 2.
Trading is not a sport that you're born with. You have to build it, right?
The market's going to do something. Your job is not to fight it.
The market never, ever runs away. It's always there.
That personal diary of trading will make you a much better trader than...
I could be right about the direction, but wrong about the trade.
Don't focus on the monetary side.
Trying to make too much money on a trade is what I have seen killed every trader.
Your losses offer you some of the greatest insight you can find into your mistakes.
Relax, learn the process.
Candlestick pattern trading is a freaking trap.
Don't be in a rush to become a millionaire.
Let the market tell you what the market wants to tell you.
This podcast is not financial, trading, or investing advice of any kind. What's up, traders? Welcome to the second episode of the Trading Nut podcast. It's been a week on since I moved over from 52 Traders, and I'm absolutely loving it. The site's looking great. If you haven't checked out the site yet, go and check the site out because there's some fantastic quotes that are on the blog post now, and you get the full transcript of the show with timed little audio times in there as well, so you can actually dive into the show at a specific audio point if you want to listen to something, and you can read it on the screen to then work out whereabouts in the show it is. So really, really handy. If you haven't checked that out, go over to the show notes, tradingnut.com, and check those out. Now, today's show, we're back in business with new traders and new interviews. So similar format to what I had with the 52 Traders podcast. We've got new guys on the show, and today we've got Navin Prithyani on the show, who's a currency trader who's got quite a big following. He actually was recommended by one of you listeners out there, and it's taken me a while to get him on the show and taken me a while to get to the point where I'm releasing it. So I'm really happy to get him on the show because he does talk about a lot of really interesting things to do with trading psychology, his journey into trying to find a mentor that really showed him the way, and then the interesting thing for me was that the mentor that he found has taught him stuff that really resonates with the way that I'm trading and what I'm learning at the moment from my mentor Andre. So I think there's some massive insight here into what actually works when trading, in particular the currency markets and the commodities and indices, futures, etc. Pretty much anything. So, guys, if you're not on the same journey here, if you're not thinking that this is the right way to go and, you're better off sticking with that moving average crossover or whatever it is, then think again, okay? Because this is like a clue. This is a clue, guys, okay? So listen to this episode and then maybe even jump back and listen to episode 1 again as well, because these guys are on the right track. Like, they found it, yeah? They have found it. So if you're not on this track, this is my recommendation to you to get onto it, okay? So, fantastic episode. Best quote from the episode today, and I've got to say it was a great quote. I really, really like this because this is another clue. It's not about making money. It's all about... sorry, I'll read that again. It's not about making money at all. It's all about what should I do to not lose money. If you can control that, you'll make money automatically. So think about that again, guys. That's actually up there. It should be a little visual that you can grab in the show notes. So it's not about making money at all. It's what I should do to not lose money. So what should I do to not lose money? So when you start thinking about that and understanding how that sort of relates to your trading, yes, you do start making money automatically. So if that's your focus needs to change, okay? So listen to the interview in detail to let that sink in and see what else he has to say around it. What else can I tell you today? Right, so we're a week on, as I said, from moving over from the 52 Traders podcast. If you do want to subscribe, if you're not subscribed to this yet, if you're listening to this online, there should be links underneath the player. If you're listening to it on YouTube, you haven't found the actual podcast yet, then you can plug it into your phone. So go onto the website tradingnut.com on your phone, and there will be links on the homepage to go straight to your podcast app, or straight to a place where you can download a podcast app to get access to the feed for the Trading Nut podcast. Okay, so go over there now. iTunes, Android, Stitcher, and TuneIn are up there. It's also on SoundCloud as well, and it's actually the same feed that 52 Traders was on SoundCloud, so you can just jump over there easily. But if you're not finding it in the search, then that's how you get to it. tradingnut.com, and on the homepage there's buttons. So while you're there subscribing, make sure you leave a review as well. So I really need some reviews to come in to get this thing up the rankings. Otherwise, no one's going to hear this really valuable information that really needs to be shared out there with everyone again. Now, a couple of other things before we get in the show. So the gold membership is up and running. So there's a limited time bonus, or not bonus, a limited time launch offer of $1 to get in the door, to get your first trading robot. You get, as part of the gold membership, you get to actually suggest strategies as well. So if you want a strategy automated, I can automate that for you, and that could feed into future robots that are released in the gold membership. And there's one being released every single month. There's also a whole bunch of settings you get with these as well. So you get a news filter, so you can filter out the news. You get to choose whether or not, and you can choose all these things, whether or not to use a trailing stop, whether or not you want to just get an alert and not have the robot actually trade for you. So you get alerts at particular points, or you can change your risk, the way you risk money, or the number of lots you trade by just changing one little setting in there, and you can choose it to risk a percentage of your account or a fixed amount. Now, to get into that, jump onto the Trading Nut podcast, jump onto tradingnut.com and click on the Join Here button. There's a couple of banners around as well that you can check out for that. You also get access to all the archive of the 52 Traders interview. So if you're weren't a pro member of the 52 Traders, you also get access to that. And what else do you get? Oh, there's live Q&As, there's a chat room, there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there, guys. And there is one more bonus with Navin's show today. So at the end of the show, he does reveal a strategy of the week that you guys can try it at home. Now, if you want to see a marked up chart of that, so I've done my version of this strategy and marked it up as a chart and put that in as a bonus. So if you're a member, just log in and you can get access to that there under interviews and then Trading Nut podcast bonuses. If you're not a member, just go onto the show notes. So search for Navin in the show notes, and you're going to get access to add your email there to get into the members area and download that chart. All right, folks, I think I've said enough. Let's get on with the show. All right, folks, we've got Navin Prithyani on the show here. Now, Navin, what am I saying? Navin, is that right?
Navin, yeah.
Navin. Yeah, so it was actually one of my listeners that recommended I reach out to you, and it's been a fair few months since I made contact with you guys, and we finally managed to make it work. Just coordinating calendars and stuff has been a bit of a nightmare, but we got here in the end. And so, because you've been traveling a bit, I mean, where have you been traveling to recently?
Well, I think since we've been in that coordinating phase, I've been to Singapore, Toronto, and now in Bangkok. But I travel on quite a bit, and that's probably why our schedules didn't match up. But we're here now, so glad to be here. Thank you.
Brilliant. And so you're the founder of Urban Forex. Do you want to give us a sort of quick overview of that and the back history on that site first, and the business, and we'll then sort of dive into some of the questions.
Yeah, sure. So I started Urban Forex in 2009. It's basically a platform where I teach traders how to look at the markets with a bit of logic rather than, a technique A plus B is equal to C, because you can't be very rigid in the market because the market is ever changing. So it's more logic-based and human psychology-based on how you can benefit from when people panic, when people react, and because those are the best moments to trade. So, so it started from 2009. We've been into it all the way till now. It's one of the fastest growing industries out there. We're doing quite well. Our students are extremely happy, and
superb.
There you have it.
Cool. And so let's go way back to the beginning. We just want to get, I suppose, your journey into trading, how you got started, and how you ended up, I suppose, starting Urban Forex, and where you are today.
Yeah, so I actually started, sometimes in high school. It was my professor, after school hours, I saw my professor actually trading options. And I didn't know what he was doing. I just looked at it and I just saw graphs on his chart. And then, the conversation led to, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I'm just working. And I think for me, the fascination started with, he's working remotely. That's what intrigued me more than the trading aspect. But going into it, it's my dad who got me closer to trading because, his mindset has always been like, there's only 8 hours in a day that someone works. Now you have to choose what you're going to do in that 8 hours a day. Now you can flip burgers or you can go do the biggest thing out there. And so that's what attracted me, that I want to do something online, but I want to do something that's worth my time and energy, since time is the only factor that keeps running out.
And so how did that journey sort of flow into the point where, you're feeling pretty confident with the way you were trading?
It was very rough. It wasn't easy. It was very, very difficult, actually. It started when I was, in Bolivia at that time I was living, and then I moved over to the States, went to college there, and, I was taking classes in the day, coming home in the evenings, and trading, learning as much as I can for trading. At that time, it was just all about strategies, automated systems, and signal services. Basically, someone give me the answer. How do I do this thing? So it's just constantly, looking for the answer and what to do. So that whole process took about 5 years of me just getting stuck on, okay, this doesn't work. What else? Okay, this doesn't work. What else? So I picked up on a few things here and there, but I never found consistency or any understanding of what I should be doing. That's when I was working for a bank, BB&T Bank in Washington, D.C., and I finally decided, okay, I need to do this properly. I quit my job, moved out to India to keep my costs low while I'm doing this. Same thing there. I did turn profitable for a little while, and then, with the flared up ego a little bit, that one, it didn't work out as well. I ended up giving it all back and being negative year after year. So it wasn't until a series of going through mentors at that stage until I was pointed in the right direction with the idea of, they kept saying to me, you've got a lot of knowledge behind you, but it's not structured. It's not laid out properly. You don't understand how the market works and why it works. It is only until I got those foundations that I actually started to put all my knowledge together and play a little bit more correctly. So it was a very difficult journey. I would say 7 to 8 years of losing, switching systems, failing, maxing out credit cards, you name it. I've done it all.
Yeah, it's so common these days. I mean, not these days. It's so common. It's such a common story. 7 to 8 years is around about the average from the guests I've had on the show. So just on some of those points there. So you talked about becoming profitable to a point before things changed when you're in India. Now, what can you remember the strategies you were using then, and are they still valid now? Would you still recommend people use that strategy, or was it just more of a mindset thing?
No, it was more of a mindset thing. So I was using simple moving average crossovers at that time. I was making money on that. It was a more trending market, and I was able to grab trends and stuff like that quite easily. So the money for that in pretty much 3 to 6 months, I just kept seeing every trade I took was profitable. Of course, at that time I was only trading part time because I was working. So I only traded, once a day or once every 2 or 3 days. So it was easy to not give my profits back to the market until when I saw the profits. I was like, oh, looks like I should be doing this full time. It's just moving average crossovers, and it says up you buy, it says down you sell. So it looked quite easy. So and then when I quit my job, now I was full time, and now I didn't have the ability to trade, step away, come back and trade, step away. It was more of, well, I'm here for a whole 24 hours now. What can I do? So it's that aspect of what can I do, just forcing trades. It started going the opposite direction. So giving away all the profits back, and in fact, diving deeper into the deposit that I put in as well. So, So I quit my job on the aspect of, oh, I got this. But reality hit me later that, bad move.
And so do you think it was just the nature of the fact that, like, the times you were trading were when the market tended to trend a bit more, and when you had the 24 hours, it was like, in actual fact, the market's dead a lot of the time, and you'd get whipsawed out of a move. Is that sort of sum it up?
Yeah. Well, it's from the knowledge I have now. Obviously, I would clearly say I was extremely, simplistic thinking back in those days, because the concept I had was pretty basic, and it was, although correct, following the trend and the flow and everything, but I just didn't know when to not continue with that trade. If I saw the pattern, I trade. If I saw the pattern, I trade. But I didn't know at what point am I supposed to stop. And I didn't know how the market moves in its cycles and stuff like that, and when I should be activating my trades and when I shouldn't be. See, so it took me a long time to just practice and study what I should not be doing at what time. And that's what was like the turning point for me after several years.
And so you said you had a few mentors, and they gave you I kept telling you the same things. I mean, how did you go about finding these mentors? Were they sort of well-known guys or more sort of hidden away types?
Yeah, so my first several mentors were well-known types. It wasn't very fun, I can tell you that. But the real ones who actually gave me breakthroughs were the ones that were hidden away. They just didn't want to deal with people. And so they never actually set up shop to teach it further, but they do, because they every one of them that taught me who is not well known have the same concept in the back of their head. It's like the average person doesn't really want to learn, but if you really see who really wants to learn, they're happy to teach. So anyone with a little bit of knowledge, I've noticed this also in the past, that anyone with a little bit of knowledge, they're extremely happy to teach only to those who really, really are desperately willing to learn and to put in the work. And it's not just a desire where it's like, okay, I wish I can do this, but there is no follow through. So I've noticed that.
Yeah. I've noticed it as well. Actually, there's a funny echo going on here. I don't know.
Do you want me to? I can put on my headphones.
Yeah, put on the headphones.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to annoy people listening to this. But yeah, I've noticed the same thing actually with myself, where like even talking to other people about what I do with this podcast and trading and so on and so forth, and people that I'll mention it to, not even 9 times out of 10, probably 9.9 times out of 10. They could. I say, look, I'm happy to teach you, but you got to come and ask. You've got to be willing to really sort of approach me and say, look, I want to learn. Come and teach me. But yeah, majority of people, like if not almost every single person I've talked to, has got zero interest, or they say, yeah, I'm keen, and that's the last you hear of it, and they never return. So I know what you're saying there. It's quite interesting, isn't it, with these guys that are hidden away. And so how did I'm always intrigued to find out how people sort of stumble on them. And I mean, was it like through some sort of trading room, or you just had connections?
No, it was just luck, and it's definitely not trading rooms, because they don't like hanging out in those spots, because every trading room that I've gone to, they've already been to it once or twice in the past, where they're these trading meetings or these free seminars and stuff. So they've attended those things, and they're like, wow, what a waste of time. So they don't attend these things because they're just so sick of what's being taught out there. So it's finding real traders it's a rare thing, as is. So whenever I talk to them, their main how I found my mentor who basically worked with me now and in the past was through one of my roommates. He used to play football with him. So it's through that I met him at a bar once. We've been drinking for like 3 or 4 months together, until one day he pops the question as, hey, by the way, what do you do? And I'm like, well, I trade Forex. I don't know if you know what Forex is. It's like the stock market, And he's like, yeah, I know what Forex is. I trade it for a living. And I thought maybe it's just a normal guy, who's just saying he trades, but he probably doesn't trade for a living, until he's like, all right, how long have you been trading? I'm like, well, I got a website, Urban Forex, and this and that. And he's like, I'm going to show you a few things, and you tell me what you think about it. He sends me a series of emails, and he's like, today I'm looking at this, this, and this, and this, and here's why. And then I watch the markets unfold almost exactly as he's saying it, trade after trade. And then the next day, and I'm like bugging him, like, wait, how did you know that's going to happen? He's like, certain market conditions tell you certain key pieces of information. Then he's like, you let me know when you want to see this again. So I waited a week and I asked him again, what about today? And he's like, today I'm not seeing anything, maybe tomorrow. And then the next day he shows me again the whole thing. Like, wow, this is like a crystal ball you have or something. This is incredible. Then he lost touch with me for some time. I had to basically stalk him for 3 months, begging him to show me the ropes of how do you do this. And now he tells me it was that stalking of 3 months that showed him my dedication of, hey, I really want to learn this. I'm not your average Joe just saying,
yeah,
I want to be a trader. I want to buy a Ferrari too. Come on, just help me. Like, he needs to see someone is willing to die for it. Like, so he's like, that's the only reason why I helped you.
And I mean, it's a fascinating story. I mean, do you have any insight into how he came up with the knowledge he had?
Oh, he worked for Barclays in the past, and he was surrounded by traders. So he had access to people who traded for a living and stuff like that, and they showed him the ropes in the past.
Right. Yeah. It does tend to be the way. All right. Cool. That's a great story. So let's get some insight into what you're doing these days. I mean, what your trading looks like. So I mean, what do you call your trading style?
I do a mixture of swing trading and day trading. If I'm more busy and traveling, it's more day trading. But if I'm at my desk, I'm swing trading if I'm traveling or busy. Otherwise, it's day trading if I'm at my desk.
Yeah, I was going to say that would be pretty. That would be an achievement if you were doing day trading while you were traveling and busy. Okay, cool. Right, and so what time frames do you tend to look towards?
So on day trading, I'm trading down to the 3-minute charts. And swing trading, I do all the way from an hour up to the daily, depending on how much time I need to myself.
Cool. And how many trades would you have running at any one time?
Any one time, maximum 2. I don't go more than 2 trades at a time.
And do you have any rules around, like, if you hit a certain number of losses in a set period of time, you no longer trade for that day or that week or anything like that?
Yeah, it's 2 losses or 20%. So if I give back 20% of my gains, or if I hit 2 losses, I'm benched, basically. I got to sit aside, and I can watch, but I can't do anything.
And is that in a day or a week or?
In a day.
In a day. And so you're day trading. I mean, how long are you sitting on a trade for typically?
Anywhere between 5 minutes up to an hour.
And do you avoid the news, or do you trade through the news?
No, I don't avoid the news. I am aware of them. If my setup is not ready prior to the news, then I don't mess with it. I wait till the news happens, and then I look to get in after the volatility starts coming in. But if my setup is ready and the news is coming out shortly after, I'm happy to take my trade because at that point I have a statistical advantage of the news is probably going to propel in my direction.
And what winning percentage would you have?
Swing trading, I would say a little bit less than 50% as I go for more risk-reward trades that are as high as minimum 5 risk reward or more. So the winning percentage is a little bit less than 50%.
And what about the day trading?
Day trading is a little bit higher, has 75% or 76% in that range. That one I'm going more for 1.5 to 2 hours at a time.
Cool. And it's quite interesting. So you're talking about R's here. So, I mean, it's one of the traders in my chat room here on 52 Traders. He started talking about R's way back, like a few months ago, and like now, I mean, I'm starting to use it in my language as well. And when I'm taking a trade, I mean, is that something you teach your students and to focus on the R as opposed to like pips or percentages or dollars for that matter?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. If I have traders coming into my room and saying, "Hey, today I grabbed 100 pips," it's like, okay, get out, because 100 pips means nothing in the industry. It just attracts retail traders, but in reality, is 100 pips only has a value of, okay, what was your stop loss against that? It is that's the only thing that can make a normal reference to a normal trader of, okay, I know what that means to me.
And so what did you say your R was on the day trading?
On the day trading, I do 1.5 or 2 Rs on average. Yeah.
Okay, cool, interesting. And okay, couple of trades running at a time. And will you be running like swing trades as well as day trades at the same time, or you try to keep them separate?
I keep them separate.
Okay. So what does your typical trading day look like then?
Well, I wake up in the morning. I do my morning rituals. Work out a little bit, stretch. I speak to myself in the mirror, get myself pumped up. Although it sounds weird, but it works. Then I sit down. I do my prep. Get a list of all my opportunities that I like to see for the day. I check in with my community as well, see what they're looking at. Since I also run a community on forexwatchers.com, and we look at all those students there have been trained by me directly, so the thought process is exactly the same. So I look at what they're looking at versus what I'm looking at to see if they match up or if there's inconsistency. And then as the market opens 30 minutes before, I sit down, I prepare, get my numbers ready, open my money management calculator, keep a calculator nearby, a book and a pen, just everything ready to go, because I do like to trade around the opening drives. So 30 minutes prior to the open all the way into 3 hours after the open, these are my busiest hours.
And are you talking London Open or New York? Both?
Both London and New York, but generally I just trade London, and I don't want to be involved by New York.
Okay, cool. It's funny because I'm sort of positioning myself now to try and avoid London Open and even Europe's Open as well, and just come in a bit after that. And I just sort of find that, I don't know, I find that I'm the moves have sort of given some setups, and it seems to be a bit more obvious for me after that period of time. Maybe it's just that I'm not a very good trader, I don't know, but that's where I'm sort of landing myself at the moment. And it's also a better time of the day for me. Although when the daylight savings kicks in again, it's going to be a terrible time of the day. So then all of a sudden the London Open actually becomes a better time of the day. So I don't know what I'm going to do then. Maybe I'll sort of have to do a bit of back testing and see if I can wean my way back into trading that pre-market and London Open.
Move to Bangkok.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. I'm like thinking you're in Bangkok, which is actually it's pretty much the perfect time, isn't it? Sort of mid-afternoon and then because it was just before now, wasn't it? So mid-afternoon.
Right. My day starts approximately 1 p.m. So that gives me the entire morning to myself, lunch, errands, whatever I have to do, and then got to trade the London. If I can't get anything done, or if I see it's slow, then I don't trade it, but I wait for New York to open, which is around 6:30 p.m. my time. And then if that shows activity, then I'll trade the U.S.
There was actually another trader on here a long time ago who resides in Bangkok, Peter Davies. Have you ever met that guy? He runs Jigsaw Trading, which is like it's a depth of market platform.
Okay.
And he's a futures trader, Yemenis. He's in Bangkok as well, and had the same sort of like pretty chilled out lifestyle in terms of it was a lot of relaxing during the day, and then he wouldn't be doing anything until I'm not too sure what time of the day. I think he said like 9 o'clock at night he wouldn't really start doing anything. And And so it was like a whole lot of resting, and then anyway, you kicked into it in the middle of the night. So, okay, brilliant. So it sounds like you've got a pretty cool setup there over in Bangkok. So let's take a slight deviation here, and I want to talk about cryptocurrency trading. I mean, what are your views on them? The hype sort of well and truly fallen out at the bottom of the market from last year. Do you trade them? Have you looked into them? Have you got any sort of views? I'm just interested to hear what you've got to say.
Yeah, so I haven't got involved into it. I was there when I look at it every day. So it's not that I just hate them and I despise them. No, I look at them every day. I was there when prices were rising from 6,000 on the other side of the trend that it is at now, and I watched it rise. I watched the news create the panic. I watched the greed kick into the market, the whole world kick in. It was just like a repetition of, the tech bubble, the housing market bubble, you name it. It's just repeating again. So I waited for that thing to crash. Now that it's crashed a little bit, and I'm waiting for larger players to get involved for me to know this is a market that's going to survive going forward. So right now, I don't trade it because it's extremely expensive to trade it. Spreads are extremely high. It's only an investment vehicle right now. I'm not one to buy and hold and then cross my fingers. I don't like that. I feel I don't have an advantage doing that because that's not what I'm good at. What I'm good at is getting in and getting out, and I take my cut. So I don't see how I can do that successfully yet on cryptocurrency. So I'm watching it as things get better, regulations kick in a little bit, brokers become a little bit more competitive, a little bit more liquidity comes in, spreads get tighter, and then I would definitely get involved. It has every single setup that we look at. We talk about it in our community as well. They're easily tradable. It's not ready yet to trade.
And have you got any of your students trading them with the setups, or are they dived into it?
Yeah, they are trading them. One of them does it exclusively. He's quite successful, but it's still a bit of a caution. I'm still looking at it like still too early, man. It feels like it's a time bomb. I'm just worried on the sideline. I'm waiting for it to settle down because even if the markets jump up to 20,000. I'm a trader. I don't care if price is at 20 or 50 or 900,000. I'm in, I'm out throughout the day. I don't really care where the price is. I just need liquidity and I need stability. That's all I need. So, yeah.
Cool. And what about ICOs? Have you thought about those? Invested in any of them? These altcoins?
No, I haven't.
Right, so, brilliant. That's pretty straightforward. It'll be interesting to see how. I mean, I've been asking most of my guests this question, and like back when it was all hyped up, there was some, a lot of interest, and it was on the top of mind of a lot of people. And now, I mean, things aren't as hyped. Then people are they've made the decision and either parked it or they're into it. So, in the beginning, what do you think made you different from the average mum or dad trader out there? I mean, what gave you what do you think gave you the push to spend 7 to 8 years really getting this right? And what do you think? I mean, if I look at myself, what do you think sort of made you different than me, where I had my 7 and 8 years? And I mean, what I noticed is that I probably didn't try as many things as you. I mean, is there something else that you might sort of attribute your success to?
Well, there's probably very minor things that might set me apart, and a majority of things that basically say I'm just like the other guys. Because trading is not a sport that you're born with. You have to build it, right? It's not that no one can do it. Only a select few who are born in a certain star alignment. But it's a mind game, and the 7 to 8 years kept going by. It's because I just have this personality of, if I'm into something, I'm not going to quit. Like, that's just who I am through my personality, and anyone can acquire that personality. But it takes a time of dedication of, it's not just trying things or looking for the answer, but it's, if you do a trade, are you saying once this trade loses or wins, okay, good, next trade? Or do you have the time to stop and be like, what was good about this trade? What was bad about this trade? What did I learn from this? How can I do more or less of this? And then your next trade. That's something I did very regularly and very consistently throughout the years, which has made my learning curve faster. So I look at my 7 to 8 years as I went fast because the average trader will not take 7 to 8 years. It'll probably take longer because it's not, you need to be in the right mindset to really tackle this information. Because when you really look at the situation, you can go to college, for example, and at a bachelor's degree, you can get your bachelor's degree, get out there, get a job, and get paid. And then go get a master's degree and get paid a little bit more. And then a PhD, get paid a little bit more. In trading, there's no such thing as at a certain level, you'll get paid something. It's either you get paid or you don't. That there is no paid less.
Yeah.
So it's either you win or you don't. It's the end of story. So you really have to work super hard.
Okay, so if you were a retail trader working a day job, what steps would you take to start earning income trading, that is?
Well, okay, so I get this question quite a lot, and I know the answer that people might be listening into might be thinking maybe it's the right broker or it's the right strategy. It's actually, we need to focus on understanding how the market works properly, on why supply and demand is activating at certain areas, and secondly, where do human emotions kick in? Where do people panic? Where do people get greedy? And use Bitcoin as an example. At what point did you start seeing people getting greedy? If you use that concept and revert to any single chart where a human is involved, whether it's futures, stocks, Forex, options, it's the same pattern. And that is the only way you can get a 95.5 percentage, because at any one given point, someone is buying, someone is selling. So how do you get a 95.5 difference if at any single time there's a buyer and a seller? It doesn't make any sense. It's because in certain conditions, majority of the people turn one-sided. So during these emotional moves, emotional candles, which we call them, these strong, big red bars or green bars, makes people panic and jump into a trade very late. And that's the stuff you need to learn to take advantage of. Once you understand that concept, then any strategy that you like is going to work, and knowing when not to touch that strategy is the key. So these are the three aspects: is do your post-analysis, learn from each trade, and know when not to do your strategy. So understanding the market flow to know when not to touch your strategy and stand aside.
And how, you mentioned sort of supply and demand, candles. What do you think? I suppose, looking at the way you teach your students how to trade, are you more focused on candlestick patterns or more just price movement and general patterns across a price chart?
More on price. There is an awareness of patterns, but depends where the pattern is. So I can't say a pattern in the middle of a trend is useful, but a pattern towards the edge of a trend, a lot more weight. A pattern in the middle of a range, not useful, but a pattern that pokes out of a range, a lot more useful. So the answer for me is always going to be, it depends. It depends where that technical knowledge is put into the chart.
Again, if we had to split your trading up into technical versus fundamental, what does that split look like? How much weighting do you give to fundamentals?
So 99% technicals, 1% fundamentals.
Right.
So the 1% just being, I'm aware of what news are coming out, but I don't go into analyzing them, interpreting them, or putting weight on it.
Okay, so thinking about a price chart, what three things would you recommend a novice trader educate themselves on?
Know when to buy before a buy is established. Know when to sell before a sell is established. That is a key to trading. If you're buying and the buy is already visible, then everybody is buying. Who are you buying from? So basic logic questions that need to be asked. And then the other thing is, for novice traders, I see this time and time again, don't just try trades, learn from them. If you made a mistake, good, that's money well spent. Learn from it. Don't let it go and make the same mistake again. So this is something that's missing a lot with retail traders, is they're spending so much money on their own trades along with their education, but they're not learning from their trades, which is very valuable.
And why do you think that is?
It's the necessity to grow faster. We're in an industry where it's all about instant gratification. So there is this need to hit success faster, quickly as possible. So once they're done with the trade, it's all about, you have Tony Robbins running in the back of your mind. Hey, you want to do something in life? You got to take action. So they're looking to take action all over the chart. It's all about trying to push the markets. You got to work to earn money. You got to do something with your life. So it's this concept running in the back of your head that's pushing traders to just keep taking trades, and hopefully it'll magically turn okay. It doesn't work, unfortunately, like that in trading. You have to learn from your mistakes, take your time, and then take the next trade and learn from that. So you can't, unfortunately, that's the step we can't bypass. We can bypass many things using technology, but we can't bypass this learning curve of failure and then winning, and then failure and winning.
Have you got any sort of surefire fixes to that? If there's traders out there who just, for whatever reason, take the trade, move on to the next one, they've been told a million times, you've got to do the analysis, but they don't do it. Have you got any either advice or tips for them?
They need to find out what their main goal is. See, if you're trading just for the sake of trading, because you're trying to just find the answer, it's not good enough. But if you really, before you start your trading, you start your day with this basic understanding of, hey, I'm trading to make money. So I'm not looking to lose money. Okay, once that concept really sets in emotionally that I'm not looking to lose money, so then what must I do to make sure I don't lose money? It's not about making money at all. It's all about what should I do to not lose money. If you control that, you'll make money automatically.
Guys, fantastic advice. I think we're going to use it as the quote for the show. That's brilliant. Now, on the price chart thing again, so you mentioned moving averages before. Are you using any indicators these days, or are you just got a naked chart?
Naked chart. I use some moving averages just to help me with a visual reference. Otherwise, I use tick volume. That's always on my charts to get an idea of if the market's active or not. And that's about it. Otherwise, naked charts.
And what about objects? Do you use any objects when you're marking up a chart?
Just horizontal lines.
Righty-ho. Pretty simple there. Very, very good. Right, so I'm going to move on to the quickfire round. So this is 9 questions that are going to help the listeners understand what it takes to become a successful trader. Now, some of them are not that quick in terms of being able to answer them, but give it your best shot. The idea is to go speedily through the second part. Right, so here we go. First one. How long did it take you to go from a trading newbie to consistently profitable?
8 years.
What's your mental approach?
How long, right?
Yeah. What's your mental approach to trading, and do you have any special techniques you can share with us?
Mental approach is I am trading against other people, so I need to be aware of how they're thinking to get my edge. What was the next question? The techniques you said?
Yeah, do you have any special techniques?
Okay. Every time a move goes in a certain direction, measure it. So for example, if you have a initial blast up, which slows down, and then it blasts up again, and then it slows down, blasts up again, each blast up that happens, measure the distance it does compared to the next one. If you see the distance getting shorter, the momentum is fading. Stop trying to buy more of it. You need to get ready to get out.
Nice tip there, guys. What's your favorite entry setup?
Well, the language I use might be different than the average trader, but I like to fade trades, I guess, if you want to call it.
Okay, yep. Fade trades.
Yeah, fading trades, reversals in the trend, stuff like that.
Yeah, that makes sense. What strategies do you use to exit or manage active trades?
I'm aware of support resistance areas, sudden peak volumes coming in that indicates larger players exiting the trade. That would be a good sign for me to get out as well. News events, and if I see momentum fading also. But if I have a sudden, like if you just remember the design of Bitcoin, the reason why I keep saying that is because it's still implemented in people's heads. The move starts and then it does another blast. It's fine, does another blast. They're all equal. And then the final blast is larger than usual. When you see that, that is an emotional candle. If it's happening at the end of at the end of a trend, not at the beginning, that means people are jumping in on the buys when it's actually cashing out time. So that is a very good opportunity to cash out and stop the buying. And if you're really pro, actually sell.
Righty-ho. Nice, another tip there, guys. This is a fantastic interview. What's your recommended trading book?
I mostly read psychological trading books. So Trading in the Zone, that one's pretty good. Trade Mindfully by Gary Dayton, that's pretty good as well. These two, I would say, top-notch.
If there was one thing you'd recommend to any retail trader spend the next month mastering, what would it be, why, and how could they go about mastering it?
Open up your Excel file, start jotting down what you do on a day-to-day basis, do it consistently, and find out your stats on that. You need to know what you're good at and what you're not good at, and learn to repeat that. And then if you prove to yourself you're good at a certain thing, then start scaling. Be the one-trick pony. It's okay. And go big, because that's what trading is all about. Who's the biggest guy on the street? So if you can't trade big and you're just looking for different strategies, it's a zero-sum game. You're going to end up at the same spot where you started. So learn one thing, do it well, and scale big.
Yeah, and I think that's something people struggle with as well. And I pretend trading small accounts that I've got about 4 other zeros on the end of it. And it's like, would you take this trade if if this is how much money you're actually putting at risk, and can you is it sustainable trading like this? And it does help. It does help when I remember to do it. That is. What's your preferred broker and trading platform?
I've used many brokerages in the past. I have for the last 5 years ended up with Interactive Brokers. Last 3 years, I would say. Ended up with Interactive Brokers, and it's my current preferred platform.
What's the worst trade you've ever had?
There is never a worst trade. There's worst trades. It's basically any trade that's wrong is my worst trade, but it's when I do a wrong trade and my brain is stuck on that, and my next trade also takes a hit, and then the next trade also takes a hit. If I get into that mindset, that becomes a series of worst trades after that, because I'm not thinking straight. So I would call that patch as my worst trading instead of one single worst trade. And that happens quite regularly, at least several times per quarter.
If you could leave our listeners with one piece of advice, what would it be?
Do your post-analysis. The internet has a lot of information out there. Learn to take in the information, but judge it at your own merit. There's no need to fight it or defend it, but learn from it and see if it applies to you and if you can use it. So use your charts to tell you the answer for sure.
Actually, I did have one other question. So that's the end of the quickfire round, but I had another question I was going to throw in there about your morning routine. You mentioned it earlier on. I mean, are you able to explain that in a bit more detail?
Yeah. So in the morning routines, it's basically like I look at trading as I'm going into battle. right? And I need to be in my A game. If I'm not in my A game, I'm going to lose because, like I discussed earlier in this interview, right? It's not like I'm going to get paid something. It's either I win or I lose. So when I wake up, I do some stretches to make sure I'm fully awake. I dance around a little bit with some music to get the energy pumping a little bit, and then I meditate. The meditation after a series of exercises allows me to actually meditate because my body is too focused on trying to relax from all that strenuous activities. And during meditation, I'm not trying to empty my mind. I'm trying to focus on setups that I like to see normally. So I'm visualizing the trade techniques that I see regularly. And then I'm also reminding myself of, don't forget, during yesterday's post analysis, this problem came up. Avoid that problem. And then last week, these problems came up. This is how we're going to avoid it. When I prepare that prior to trading and then I enter the trading arena and the bell hits and I'm there, I'm trading, because I recapped it prior to trading, it's fresh in my mind that when that situation does come up, there is a lower chance that I'm going to mess up. So it's very critical for me to do the morning routines. If I don't do my morning routines, I pretty much know I'm going to fail that day. And generally I do.
Nice. It's very useful to know, guys. Right, so the last question of the show, we'd like you to give us the bones of a full trading strategy, entry setup, stop loss, take profit targets, market time frame, basically something our listeners can have a play with at home this week.
Okay. I'm trying to... okay. All right. So if you guys can visualize this chart with me. So let's say the market is completely flat, right? It's completely flat. It's been going sideways, like in a range, some congestion. This process, it's usually the buildup, okay? And how we know it's a buildup is towards the end of that range, you start getting higher lows. During those higher lows, all the big boys start piling in, okay? So the very large players, they build up during the entire range, and then all the smaller guys, the hedge funds and all these corporate guys, they start buying at the sign of higher lows because that's a sign of desperation. Okay, the larger player is looking to eat up more orders. Once the sell orders are gone, the buy starts to take off. It breaks the range. As it breaks the range, anyone who was standing by holding on to their cash is now looking at it like, oh, here we go. They pile on. Anyone who was selling from the top of the range is now getting stopped out. So their orders are piling on for the buy as well. This fuels the buy initially. If you're not in these buys at the initial stage, you get your first pullback as your secondary chance. If you're not in that buy as the trade goes further higher, okay, it will now propel and go faster. Once it goes faster in that speed, what's going to happen is it's going to grab the attention of every indicator, every trading system, and every news anchor out there. They're going to start mentioning, oh, did you notice what happened to the markets today? But at this stage, since the world is looking to buy, remember what I said at the bottom of that range when all the big boys were buying their orders, they know that if they want to sell, every human being out there is willing to buy at such high prices that they can sell to so they can get out quickly. Because if they get out when everyone's looking to sell, then they can't sell their large position. So you need to think of it in where the big money is flowing in and can they get out? If they can't get out, prices have to keep rising until people chase more of it, and then they can scale out. Okay, so you want to sell when it's not too obvious. You want to buy when it's not too obvious, basically.
Yeah, nice. I just drew that up, so I think it's easy enough to check one of those out on the price chart, and so the answer there is to take a sell somewhere that's not too obvious in that heightened sort of buying frenzy, and come in with the big boys and take the money back to where they originally bought. I'm guessing.
Yes. So if you're buying from where the range just broke out from the bottom, that's okay. If you're buying the next pullback, whether you're a Fibonacci trader or support resistance, supply and demand, those will work. But if the trend goes higher, much higher, and it's now obvious, and then you try to do a Fibonacci pullback or supply and demand support resistance over there, that same technique that you did earlier that made you money will have less chance to make money now. This is the missing piece that a lot of my students and a lot of students, traders out there have is, when should I stop using my technique that I know makes money?
Superb. Now, look, thanks very much for coming on the show. I think it's been an absolutely fantastic interview, and I hats off to the guy who actually recommended I reach out and get you on the show, because I think there's been a lot of value bombs dropped throughout this interview. Before we wrap up, what's the best way for traders to get hold of you?
They can reach out to me at my email address, navin@urbanforex.com, or through our website, urbanforex.com.
Brilliant. A big thank you to Navin for sharing with us today. Everything we've discussed here, along with all the links, are in the show notes. To find them, simply search for Navin in the search box on 52traders.com. Until next time, I wish all my listeners trading happiness and success.
Thank you, Cam. Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, so there we have it. Navin Prithyani on the show. Hope you enjoyed the interview. Now, to check out everything, head over to the show notes, type in NAVIN in the search box, or just go to interviews, and you'll be number 2 there on the Trading Nut podcast. I know I did drop 52 traders in there a couple of times. There's a download for you if you get in there and jump in the members area. So there's a free download of the strategy that he gave us at the end of that show there. You can also get that $1 special on the Trading Nut Gold membership, so dive over there ASAP before it expires. And do remember to subscribe to the podcast if you're listening to this somewhere else. If you want to listen to it on your phone, jump over to the homepage and there's links there as well. And be sure to leave a review. Until next time, have a great trading week.